Hey folks, Kilt-Man here. Kilt-Man at your services. How are you all? Hope you're all doing very, very well. Now, as part of our ongoing Jaws 50th anniversary celebrations, I've got something to show you. Something great, something rare, something very limited as well. And you can get your hands on it. So I'm going to show it you now. And this came courtesy of our good friend on the Emerald Isle, Cap'n Ronnie. He got one for himself and he got one for me. Captain Ron, champion sir, champion. And Jaws again. And more importantly, Quint, our favourite character. We all love Brody, we all love Hooper. Well, in the whole dichotomy of you know the triumvirate of heroes and characters in Jaws, Brody is there. He's the everyman. Hooper is Hooper. Hooper drives the boat, chief. Hooper is, an arrogant son of a bitch, but does a very self-sacrificial dive. You go in the cage, cage is in the water, you go in the water, shark's in the water, arr shark. So, but Hooper does do that. But he's an annoying character at the same time. But Quint is the quintessential character. He owns the movie and he stops dead a movie in its tracks. A movie which is the most cinematic gold you can get from the 70s, and every movie from that point onwards has mimicked or tried to mimic its rhythm and its flow. Even the quieter scenes have a punchline. They have something that happens, and it could be dialogue. The movie moves at a really brisk pace. You watch it now. I know, like, people from the newer generations go like, "Oh, Jaws, it's a bit slow." Not much of a body count, is there really? And it's it's great, but it's a bit slow. It's not slow at all. But I've heard this argument, and I've argued back most vehemently, because the film is, the one thing it is not is slow. It has a continuous rhythm and flow, like the ebb and flow of the tide, if you want analogies, which is a perfect one to use, of course. And every single scene has something which brings it to a point, and then it may come back down again, but you've got lots of high points. But the one scene which we all know and we all love and revere is Quint's Indianapolis speech, his monologue there. Now, although it breaks, a reverie, it becomes in its own right a haunting, slow down the movie. The shark's still out there, but we're going to talk about this. And in so doing, Robert Shaw, in his deliriously fantastic monologue, puts you back 1945, the oil slick in the wake of the USS Indianapolis, just delivered the bomb, the Hiroshima bomb. Come back from the island of Tinian to Lady. Japanese subs and 2 torpedoes into our side, chief. Anyway, that speech slows the movie down, but perfectly. It becomes a haunting sort of, it sucks you into Quint's character. And I love the fact that Quint gives nothing away beforehand. He doesn't want to talk about this. They've suddenly got this sort of like this bit of camaraderie on the Orca. He hates Hooper. Hooper hates him. And Brody just tries to be the middleman. Like, I just want to, I'm the chief of police. I can do anything. But I can't manage these two guys. I can't micromanage. He's got the school kids who are like karateing the picket fences, and he can't even control that. And Polly, Polly is the one who can do all his reports and type things up properly. Hendrix can't do jack shit. But Brody is us. We want to be Quint, Hooper is some of us, and we might not like to admit that, but I know a lot of Hoopers out there. I know a lot of Hoopers. But this scene is the big leveler. Suddenly Quint can see Hooper almost, well, not as an equal, but which definitely will not be the case. Although Hooper will, I wouldn't say rise, he will descend to a complete, arc of character heroism. And obviously Quint will come to accept that. And then get chomped, obviously, just shortly afterwards. But not the point. This sequence, after dinner, I'd love to know who made that dinner on board, the evening meal. Who made that and what were they eating? I know we watch the film so many times and we pore over all these details, but I want to know who made that. There's a video there. I'll do a video on that. Who made the Last Supper? Which it is for Quint, let's be honest. But of course, you start comparing scars and everyone's laughing and joking. Poor Brody is just like, well, I've got no scars, He's been in New York, and he's been in Amity for 4 years, and nothing's ever happened, he's done nothing at all. And he tries to look at his appendix scar, and appendectomy. What you call the appendix operation? Well, who cares? I've not suffered it as yet. But he sort of goes like that, and he just goes, okay, forget that then. He's still the outsider. But Hooper and Quint are really finding common ground. You want to drink? Drink to your leg. I'll drink to your leg. And what's that one? Well, what's that one on your arm there? Oh, it's a tattoo. I had that removed. Oh, don't tell me. Mother. Hooper just goes ape shit on that one and starts choking in a real frat boy sort of way. It's Hooper. It's the USS Indianapolis, and Hooper chokes back and has to you in Indianapolis? And Brody's still thinking, oh, it's all part of the joke. So, what's the next funny line going to be? I want to get involved in this. I've got nothing to offer, but I'll join in with the laughter and bravado. What happened? Japanese sub stands. And you get that. And it slows the film down brilliantly. What Robert Shaw and the brilliant monologue, which we're going to come on to, this is the whole point of this video, is Robert Shaw, in his delivery, he puts you back in time. Even though nothing, okay, the shark will come up and start butting the side of the orca while they're singing show me the way to go home, and you got all that. But beforehand, Quint takes you back to a time which he will not talk about. And I've said this before in many other videos. I don't think Quint's ever talked about this. I know we've got books about Quint, and we'll talk about those in a bit. I don't think he's ever, as a character in the movie, ever talked about it. In the book by Peter Benchley, he's not only in Indianapolis, he wasn't there. He's got other reasons for hating sharks, and it's certainly nothing to do with that. That's a filmic addition, but it works. And the film slows down. He takes you back in time, and he puts you in the water. He puts you in the most hellish of circumstances. Adrift for days, ship's gone down. They're all sunburnt, they're drinking salt water, they're covered in aviation fuel and oil slicks as well. They're getting sunburn off the Pacific sun, they're going to hypothermia because of the water itself, and they're going mad. But not only that, they're beset by sharks. Sharks have come to eat them all. What a glorious feast. So in the context of the movie, where Jaws depicts the great white shark and sharks in general as being absolute demons of the deep, And we now know and understand why Quint has such a huge, obsessional Captain Ahab style hatred of sharks. Now, I'm not going to rake over too much old ground because I've covered this a lot before, and I'll put some links to other videos. Quint has survivor guilt. I've said this for decades now. Quint has survivor guilt. He knows he should have died there. You know, he meets his mate, you know, Herbie, you know, bobbed up and down, reached out to wake him up, upended. Well, he'd been bitten half below the waist, you know, and all that stuff. And I've put a life check in again. And he knows he should have died there with his mates, the boys. He doesn't say that, but the boys is how they were termed by many people who survived the Indianapolis. And he knows somewhere out there there's a shark with his name all over its teeth, and he wants to meet it. So he's going out there. He's been chasing his own destiny for decades since that incident. He's had tons of escapades and all sorts, arm wrestling, and you know, he's had a few marriages. He's done this, that, and the other. He's been around the world, and it's docked several times. But he knows that he's cheated death. He believes he should have died there with many of his comrades in that hell of stricken together. In his monologue, they were in groups of, you know, squares, you know, the calendar now, Battle of Waterloo, you know, and the idea was shark comes near his man, he starts pounding and hollering, you know, sometimes shark go away, and sometimes he wouldn't go away. So you get all of that. It's not quite the case in reality, as we're going to come to, but Quint and Robert Shaw tells a story and puts you back into that hellish environment, and you realise the film slows down agreeably for what it's most haunting, and for many people the best sequence in the movie, because it's so iconic, it's so ideologically spun, it's so haunting, so original, so believable. I remember back, the film came out in 75, of course we're going through its 50th anniversary right now, 2025, and but I reviewed the film many times. But back in the day, in the sort of 80s, when I was a bit older and we taped off, you know, terrestrial TV, then I got the first, you know, Betamax copies of it, and we watched the movie. Me and my mates would watch it all the time. A rumor went round that and it's bullshit, by the way, that they almost got sued because there was a guy called Quint on board the Indianapolis, and the family were going to sue them for using his name. It's bullshit. There wasn't a guy called Quint on the roster. There wasn't. Quint is a fictitious character created by the author Peter Benchley. The film delivers him into this environment. Spielberg said to John Milius, bad boy John Milius, great cinematic auteur, I want to have a reason why Quint is so obsessional about hating sharks. So, and this is where this speech comes from, and the mythology and folklore surrounding Jaws is legendary, of course, and that's why we love it so much, because you can't put a finger on who wrote that monologue, right? Who did? And I've discussed this many times. John Milius had a hand in it. Carl Gottlieb had a hand in it. Spielberg apparently had a hand in it too, being director. He may have steered it in certain different ways. Howard Sackler, great American playwright, novelist. Howard Sackler did uncredited rewrites on the script and this monologue. But Robert Shaw himself, a playwright, a writer, also had a go at it as well. And infamously and very true, the first day that he was meant to do this speech, he was pissed as a fart. Again, one of the Hollywood, the wild boys out there, Richard Harris, Oliver Reed, Peter O'Toole, so many of them. And they were always, giving it loads. And the first time he came to do the speech, in fact, the first 2 or 3 times, Robert Shaw couldn't get through it, couldn't do it at all, and really was so apologetic about it. It's just like, because Spielberg's at his wit's end, the shark, what weren't working most of the time. Things are bobbing up across the horizon, clouds are moving. This is before visual effects and CG to augment all this stuff and make it all perfect and seamless. And like Spielberg's like, look, he's only just done Jewel and the other TV movie that I've forgotten about. Everyone forgets about it, but Jewel was magnificent. And he said, look, oh God, you got one more chance. Otherwise, we're gonna have to scrap this scene because it's just not gonna work. Can't do it. You can't give it to Hooper. You said you can't give it to Brody, so it's not gonna work at all. So, no, I'll do it. So Robert Shaw comes back in, sober the next day, and delivers the monologue, the USS Indianapolis speech. But being the fantastic, he's not a method actor, but he was very in character a lot of the time, and quite on the streets of Martha's Vineyard, a reporter, a journalist, or even a local comes up to him, like he'd be like, "You fuck away from me," and like his bogus Nantucket, Massachusetts accent. He was a hodgepodge. He tried to get it right, but he came up with something completely different, and a bit works, of course. And his version, he improvises a fair bit of that, and you can see it in the dialogue of Jaws. Is so beautifully done, so realistic, so it overlaps. Everyone stutters and stammers. Everyone repeats and sort of regurgitates words. It's how people speak in real life, which is why the film is so indelibly authentic to us, even to this day. Howard Hawks, back in the 40s and 50s, used to use overlapping dialogue, so people talking over each other, because that's how conversations exist. People, I've heard enough of you, I'm going to talk over you, and they'll keep talking back, so you get overlapping dialogue. It's awkward in the wrong hands in a film. Hawks could do it, and Spielberg could do it as well. So everyone speaks very naturally. They stutter, they stammer, they get confused, they have pauses in the wrong place. It's perfect because that's how people do talk. So when Robert Shaw delivers the Indianapolis monologue, it is broken, it's fractured. It has its own sort of weird rhythm to it. It's not like I've heard people say like, it's like waves, and you got the sun shining on the crest of a wave. He has little peaks and troughs. I don't think it works like that. He speaks like that throughout the rest of the movie, but that monologue is not done like that. It's deliberately very naturalistic, and because Quint doesn't speak as much as he does in that sequence anywhere else in the movie, apart from like he's scratching his hands down the blackboard and all that. I said blackboard. Get over it. And for that you get the head, tail, the whole damn thing, But he speaks in like lots of like barbed, aggressive anachronisms, and taking the piss and sarcasm and witticisms and comical asides and little ditties and things, sea shanties, his own made up variations. But the monologue is the biggest sequence of him talking, unbroken, and it works. And Robert Shaw is very definitely hugely involved in how that comes across. No matter who wrote it, who cares? Who cares? I tend to believe that Milius, Gottlieb, Spielberg, Sackler, and Shaw all had a hand in it, but Shaw's the one. Okay, there's the script. I'm gonna do this now. I'm not pissed this time, but I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna do it in character, and he nails it. And of course he gets things wrong. not Robert Shaw's fault. And here we go, folks. Here's what this video is all about. Well, it's been 20 minutes, and we'll get on to it now. Oh, look who it is. Here's the swimming bow-legged women. There is a chapbook. That's a small pamphlet style book which has come out, limited edition, about Robert Shaw, Quint, the Indianapolis, and of course Jaws. And what it does, it takes that speech, right, which is not in Peter Benchley's novel, but it takes that speech and it gives the reality behind what he's talking about, the real sinking of the USS Indianapolis after delivering the mechanics of the bomb, which are going to take out, Hiroshima and Nagasaki, and the reality of what genuinely happened. And I'm going to show it to you now, and I'm going to show you what it comes with. Here it is: Quint, Jaws, and the USS Indianapolis. And it's written by an uber Jaws fan who's probably the same age as me, probably the same age roughly, I think. I'm 56, called Steve White. And Steve White is also an artist. Now, I'm going to show you this. Oh, you probably can't see it because of that pesky ring light pinging it all out. This edition is limited to 300 numbered copies, each with a signed print. Copy number, mine's 102 out of 300, 102. And Cap'n Ronnie has got one for himself, of course. Now, I don't know if you can see that picture there. Now, I'm going to show you. You get a signed copy in a print, in a frame. There's clearly, can you see that? I'll show you the actual picture itself before we talk about the book itself. You get this. I mean, look at this. How fantastic's that? All framed up and that. You get this print. Oh, that's even worse, isn't it, with the ring lights? Oh, that's terrible. Bloody big shark fin, nibbled, chewed, and you've got like poor people in the Pacific Ocean, and you've got, that's Robert Shaw. That's a younger Robert Shaw, a younger Quint, shall we say? Do you know what? That's a brilliant picture, signed and dated 25, as in 2025. But I think it'll look better coming from this. This will prove me wrong. Oh, it's the white page, isn't it? You've got the big fat PBY coming in to pick them up. That's in the background there, but I don't know if you can see that too well. But that's the young Quint. Now, Steve White, who should call himself Steve Great White, he's a fabulous artist. There's other faces around in the surf there, but that great big fin, dorsal fin, is going past them, looking very super satanic and huge. If I'm honest with you, Quint looks a little bit older than he should be. He should be around about 19, 20, maybe 21 if he's sunk with all the boys of Indianapolis. But he looks, I think it's because we've got to recognise him as being Robert Shaw as Quint, which is fine. And it's a beautiful piece of art. And especially, with that signed print, which when you buy a copy of this, you will get that as well. So, anyway, the book itself. We have some photos. There's the real life USS Indianapolis. There. Pre-sinking, obviously. But what this book does, you're talking like, there's only, 35, 36, maybe 37 pages in it. But it's packed with information. Now, I know the real story of the Indianapolis. I have Doug Stanton's fabulous book, In Harm's Way, which tells the full story. All the beginnings, the entire campaign in the South Pacific, and all the sister ships and the Japanese attacks and all that, delivery of the bomb mechanisms and everything that happened afterwards, and loads of photos in that. That is the definitive account. but as a Jaws sort of accompaniment, because that doesn't really talk about Jaws. I don't think it mentions Jaws at all, if I'm honest. Maybe as a footnote. But this, what Steve's done, he takes it like this is Quint's story, and I'm going to say like, well, this is his take on it. Well, Quint says this, Quint talks about that, he did this and blah blah blah. Well, here's the reality, and of course Quint gets things wrong, and as Steve says, you know, he gets dates wrong, he gets the number of days they were adrift, gets that wrong, he gets the number of people that went into the sea, the number that were killed by sharks. You can dress this up as well, like, well, look, Quint doesn't really care. Quint was there, and like, you know, as far as he's concerned, almost everyone was taken by sharks, which has fueled his absolute obsessional hatred of sharks, which makes sense in his character. But someone who was there wouldn't be privy to all the facts and figures and numbers and details, but he would have found out over the years afterwards, and the inquiries and everything like that, which went into the sinking and the scapegoating of the captain and various other members of US Navy hierarchy, who were massively erroneous in a lot of what they did and what they said, and how they tried to, like, not so much cover it up, but find reasons why this happened. They just basically won the war with the bomb, but this horrific disaster had to be kind of, you've got to sweeten the deal for the US, you know, population, for the public. You can't, like, oh my God, they were eaten by sharks, and we left them there for days. Quint says no distress signal had been sent. You know, our bomb mission had been so secret, no distress signal had been sent. It's a lie, because they did send several distress signals, as you know, Steve says, and but they were picked up, and some were garbled, and some were like just kind of disregarded because it didn't go through as top secret. It was saying, oh, it's just restricted. So like, oh well, you know, we'll just ignore that. That's nothing. And then only afterwards they realised, when someone spotted there's a massive oil slick here, and like there's people in the water. And whereas the Indianapolis didn't make its rendezvous, which was meant to do, but the Indianapolis was not a cursed ship. It had a few issues over the years, and the fact that it didn't make its rendezvous after delivering all the bits and bobs of the bomb, Hiroshima bomb, the fact that it didn't make the rendezvous, no one was asked about. That's bloody terrible. That is that's really bad. Just go, oh, well, they're always late. No, you can't get away with that. So a lot of people, heads should have rolled, but the survivors were rescued, and Quint is amongst them. So this little fantastic little book kind of encapsulates what Doug Stanton did in his epic tome there, and brings it down to a really sort of condensed but still highly detailed version of events, which puts you in there and is frightening and highly detailed and chronicled to perfection. He talks about the entire campaign, MacArthur and Nimitz and all this, and all the hierarchical political battles that took place, and the indiscretions, and you know, which led to many deaths, and how the Japanese were infiltrating, and you know, and how they took down the Indianapolis when it really shouldn't have happened, you know. And I massively recommend it as a little accompaniment to what Quint discusses. It's perfect. It's a little perfect accompaniment, and there's a few footnotes, and there's also a great little piece at the end here, which again is also discussed elsewhere, but about the another American ship called the Juno. I'm showing you this and you can't see it, can you? It's all super white and ring lights, and the Juno gets sunk as well. And sharks take a lot of their, well, thrust into the water survivors, sharks attack them. So it's another thing. And sharks were a massively known threat by the US Navy, also by the Royal Air Force and the Royal Navy, probably every navy in the world. I mean, since the 16th, 17th centuries, by any navy, they were known to be out there. A shipwreck, people are going overboard, sharks would be seen, and they became to be known. And of course, you know, from like the 16th, 15th, 16th centuries, sharks were depicted very bizarrely. They look so ridiculous just because the artist clearly wasn't there at the time. So it's eyewitness accounts of like just this thing, this great big huge mouth. It's knocked over the lifeboat and great big jaws full of teeth. So sharks looked hugely monstrous. And as we know, some of them can be, especially Bruce, or a shark. And but this kind of puts it right. Quint says that, you know, first dawn, first shark came cruising, tiger shark, there even for it. You know that when the water, chief, you can tell by looking from the dorsal onto the tail. You know, I mean, how the hell would he know that? And also, looking from the dorsal and the tail, it's not going to give you an accurate depiction of the actual length of the shark unless you know sharks. How would Quint have known that at the time? But it's beside the point. And also, tiger sharks aren't out in the deep oceans. They're not. They come in a lot closer to shores, as he says. So white pointers would have been out there. White pointer sharks. They're a little dab of white on the top of the dorsal fin, and they are hugely aggressive. Obviously, we all know great whites. He makes a point of saying, this is Steve, I think it says right here, a footnote. Okay, let me stop you right there. While everyone knows it's a great white, a Carcharodon carcharias, it's now known as just the white shark, and I'll be keeping it that way. So he calls it the white shark throughout his write-up. And they are called that now, but I still call them a great white. I'm pretty damn certain you guys all call it a great white shark. And they call the hammerhead the great hammerhead as well. The great hammerhead. A very nasty shark. Some people think it's ethereally beautiful. I think it's the most pig ugly you bastard, under the sea imaginable. And I've seen some fucking things under the sea. But the hammerhead, it's hammerhead, literally, and its eyes are over there. It's the most bizarre looking thing. Great, pure, nasty body. Its pectorals, its dorsal, its tail fins. It looks, just forget about the head. It looks amazing. And then you get the head, you're like, is that your head? Where's your face? You got no face. There's someone that massively, put a shovel into your snout. What the hell? And they call it the Great Hammerhead. Well, I wouldn't skit it to its face. I'd be very, under his chin. Can you see me? I'm right in front of you. You can't see me, can you? And those black eyes roll over right, But this is a great book. Can you see what's on the back here? In a little glorious, sort of personalised, Steve talking about why he's into Jaws. It's his favourite movie of all time, and we're all with you on that, Steve. But he says, I bought that book there, Shark Attack, which was written and compiled before Jaws came out. The US Navy's Shark Attack File, which is an amazing account of the threat of sharks. So before, Royal Navy, Royal Air Force, US Navy. Well, something happened there. Bruce the shark just fell over, and something took place behind us. But we won't go into all that. Whatever spookiness, and I suspect the cat The great white feline has probably had something to do with that. Anyway, the shark attack file was compiled way before Jaws came out, and what's his name? H. David Baldridge, who compiled it, worked for the US Navy and just interviewed everybody, witnesses, and compiled a huge shocking account of all the deaths and attacks by sharks in shallow water, deep water, scuba divers, deep sea divers, everything. And it was to do with, like, you know, look, how do we combat this? Because people aren't going to go into the sea, whether recreationally or for military purposes or research purposes. So we need to know how to, like, deal with sharks in the seas, shark repellents and all that. So he discusses all that, and Steve says, like, I bought that book. There it is. That's the cover. He's took a picture of the cover of his book. There, right there it is. And I think he says it cost him 40 pence. 40 pence when he bought it. Where is it? Oh, shit, where is it? There's my copy. There's my copy of the book. Right? I have the book as well, and I've got absolutely dozens and dozens of books, research books on sharks. Some really great, full, glossy, fantastic, you know, brilliant imagery, and lots of first-hand accounts and lots of scientific research. And I've had these. I started buying them in the early 80s, and then from that point onwards, I've got lots of new books on sharks as well. Anyway, but there's the same book that he had. That's the colour of his. There's mine. I don't know if you can see, but this young dickhead actually filled in. You probably can't see it again. The ring light's sabotaging me, but I've drawn lines inside the title Shark Attack. It's cost 40 pence. Again, you don't see this, but from bookcase on 74 Seaview Road, Wallasey. Seaview Road, Wallasey. You know I live in Wallasey. I've lived all over the place, but I live in Wallasey, and I'm born and bred in Wallasey. And right back there is Rake Lane Cemetery, and I live on Rake Lane. The Kilt Mansion is built on Rake Lane. We own Rake Lane, but we border onto one side of Rake Lane Cemetery, and it has two other roads which border it, and one of them is Seaview Road. And Bookcase used to, well, this place, Bookcase, used to be there, and it was one of those old style second-hand bookshops, which I've talked about many times on the channel. I love old bookshops. Whenever we go anywhere, and you go abroad, you don't get this. In the UK, second-hand bookshops, vintage bookshops, you go little quaint English villages or Scottish villages or Welsh little townships, you have these little bookshops, and you go in and they smell musty and old, and there's usually an old proprietor there who's like a barnacled Quint himself, and you go really ramshackle stairs, which they're an absolute hazard, a health hazard. You take your life in your own hands going up and down these stairs, and they're on multiple floors, and sometimes there'll be a step ladder which you can put against, you know, because the books are like floor to ceiling on all these different floors, and they're all over this show. Well, anyway, I found this book in Bookcase, and mine, I'll be about, I don't know, 10 years old at the time. The film came out in 75. I saw it when it first came out, but I was only a kid. I was 10 in 1979. I probably bought this round about 1979, maybe 80, and mine cost 30 pence. It says 30, I don't know if you can see that. 30 pence there. And if you returned it, you'd get 15 pence back. So if you read the book and took it back, you get 15 pence back, and he'd resell it again. But the tagline was, Jaws was all, Jaws was all fiction. This is all fact. Obviously this is printed after Jaws came out, even though the shark files were accumulated before Jaws. And it is nasty as hell. But there's one thing I hate about this book, and it's just me being me, and also a published author as well, don't you know, award-winning author. Yeah. It's on the back. You can't blame what's his name, H. David Baldridge for this. It's the publishing company has just chosen a great big, like, my God, wowing, sort of quotation from an eyewitness account in here, and it says, quotation marks, "The shark came out of the blue like a rocket and grabbed Bob." That's in big letters. And I've always thought that sounds so bad. But that's a quote. But it just sounds, oh my God. The shark came out of the blue like a rocket and grabbed Bob. Bob the Builder? It moved so fast that by the time I looked back, it had him in its mouth and was shaking him like a leaf. It broke him in half and rose up at me with Bob's legs and flippers sticking out of its mouth. Okay, that's a bit more nasty and a bit more severe. But it's just like, grab Bob. But anyway, so Steve, I've got it too, and mine was, what, 10 pence cheaper? But it is a great book. It's now hugely outdated. There's been innumerable attacks since then, and we always hear about attacks, and everyone's quick to say, like, look, people die more of bee stings, people drown in the bath more than they get attacked by sharks. All very true. And Peter Benchley, after writing Jaws and then the big success of the film Jaws, he realised, oh shit, what have I done? Now, he met sharks firsthand, and Steve does discuss that firsthand, and a really bad situation he was in, and he survived it, but it fueled his imagination. Like, these weren't even monster sharks, but what if a real monster shark took a claim off some beach, and then people had to go out and combat this shark? Imagine that. So we come up with Jaws, obviously. But he realised what he'd done. He demonised sharks to the point where they were being mercilessly hunted, which they still are to this day. And the fins, shark fin soup, and other shark remedies. They use the skin for certain, the hide. Shark skin is so abrasive, it can do as much injury as the teeth can if it sidles past you. It'll just shear you to the bone. But certain practitioners of medicinal remedies will use shark hide to make concoctions. So sharks are always being used, and in science, to this day, they're still trying to. Sharks don't have cancer. Sharks don't have cancer. Cancerous cells do not grow in sharks. So they're trying to. That's, God, I know, 50 years or so since Jaws. I've been looking at taking samples of shark DNA, shark this, shark that, shark the other, getting this stuff out of them to find a remedy for cancer, which you and I both know they're never going to do. There's probably a cure for most cancers right now, but are they going to release that to the world? No. Why? Have I got to say? Because Big Pharma and all the medicinal companies don't want to cure you. If they cure you, they've lost a customer. They're not going to do that. They're going to put you down this road, and that's not pouring scorn on people who are going through cancer, or people who've gone through cancer. I know many. I don't talk lightly about it at all, but I also do not believe half of what is said. Oh, we're struggling to find a cure for cancer. Apparently sharks have got it. Anyway, and Deep Blue Sea covers that as well. Rennie Harlan's terrific giant Mako shark mayhem masterpiece, and I love that movie. Anyway, so Peter Benchley realised, oh no, I have really put sharks in a massively bad light. People are afraid to go in the water, and people were genuinely afraid. People always knew about sharks, but Murray Hamilton says at Mayorville, you yell barracuda, people go, huh? What? Huh? You yell shark, you got a panic on your hands on the 4th of July. because he knows that even though most people don't know what sharks were capable of, they're just mythical monsters. Yeah, with big teeth and all that, but you're never going to count them, are you? Until they start laying claim to your coastline and taking out bathers, and then all of a sudden it's brought home to you. Benchley realised this, and I'm like, oh shit, what have I done? And to his absolute credit, and we should all doff our caps, and that's some bad hat, Harry. Doff our caps and like really bow down to him, because he then dedicated the rest of his life to marine ecology and preservation of sharks and understanding of sharks. And he pledged his entire life to doing so. And what an amazing guy. He wrote what would be an airport bestseller, a airport lounge bestseller. People, oh God, planes being cancelled. Oh, just buy this off the carousel and sit there in departure lounge reading the book. And that's what it was termed as. But of course, we all know it was already earmarked to be made a movie. So, but it was a pulp, soap opera, action, adventure, thriller, horror, and then became all that and a monster movie and horror exercise par excellence. So he realised, shit, I've got to redress the balance, and then dedicated his life to like educating people, and all profits were going towards shark and maritime charities. Gotta love the guy for that. Brilliant. Which brings me to another little point, an interesting point, not a white point, a white tip point, a white pointer. I'll get that point across in a minute, albeit with a sledgehammer. The versions that probably everyone beneath copy number 102, I know certainly Cap'n Ronnie's copy as well, does not have a disclaimer on the inside of this jacket here. A disclaimer from the Peter Benchley estate, Wendy Benchley, which sort of says like, look, we admire everyone who can do works of fiction based on the characters that Peter created and all that, but just a disclaimer saying, this is recognise us as being the ones that hold the rights to all of this. Now, it's with Nail Books, with Nail and I. With Nail Books published this, although it does say somewhere in here, Carcharodon Press, 2025. Carcharodon. Yeah, you know what that is. But they didn't put the disclaimer in. So when you got copies of this, and Cap'n Ronnie sent me, what they'd sent to him, basically saying like, here is the disclaimer, you've got to put it in. If you resell it, it's got to be inside the copy of the book, and they send you it so it fits in. You print it off, it'll fit just inside here. And I thought, well, that's a bit unusual. I've never encountered that before. So I looked at, oh God, no, not the original Jaws books. There's the first ever UK copy, first one. That's there. The first paperback is there. I've got them both. First hardback copy, first paperback copy. I've done videos on the books and the artwork, the posters, and all the way that was all configured and designed. But in the years since, we've had the Book of Quint and Quint. Book of Quint by, I forgot the guy's name, and it's not on the front of the bloody cover. That's annoying, isn't it? Frustrating. But Quint by Robert Lautner, which tell the backstory of Quint. Now, I've looked in both of those books. I never even thought about it before, and that disclaimer is in both of those books. So it should be in by official reason, it should be inside this as well. So any version you get now, if you buy, and I urge you to do so while they still exist, it'll have the disclaimer in there. But for those of you that bought it, any numbers less than this, you can print it off yourself and stick it in there. You haven't got to, but if you resell it, then I think you should do it, because it's part of the Peter Benchley estate, and they have, stipulated this. They own it, for God's sake. Now, look at all the Jaws merchandise that's come out, especially, the last few years. Tons of Jaws memorabilia and merch. But this year, that's gone exponential. That is just... Atlantis literally would sink under the weight of it all. Oh, it's already sunk, hasn't it? Well, you get my point. And so I looked at some of the Jaws figures from NECA, looked at the packaging, and I don't see that disclaimer on it. So I don't know if Universal has a different sort of, whether under the banner of Universal for the figures, licensing rights are so bizarre and so stringent. These may stick to just certain elements. Maybe the written word is different. I don't know how it happens. I don't know what the ramifications are. But having come a cropper of Lucasfilm and George Lucas himself, me and my good mate Lee Van Keith, I said that right. He looks like the actor Lee Van Cleef, but his name is Keith, so we call him Lee Van Keith. And he's a Jedi by religion. He is, genuinely. And back in 2001, I'd written 2 books. I'd left the Marines, and another business venture with me and Lee Van Keith was to make action figure stands, primarily for Star Wars figures. So even though we made stands that fit any figure, but primarily for Star Wars, the vintage ones which had bigger holes and feet were closer together, so a bigger pin, on a perspex stand, all different colours, different marble effects, but you could customise them, and also stands for the later figures where the legs were wider apart with smaller holes in the feet. And we could do Lord of the Rings figures, and we did figures for Shrek at the time as well. So we're doing like dioramas. We did all this sort of stuff, but we advertised on a fledgling website using Boba Fett, Bespin, Luke Skywalker, and Darth Vader, and maybe a couple of other figures as well, like Star Wars. And we had this great big sort of imagery. And we got slapped with an injunction, a cease and desist by Lucasfilm. Just because we use them, we're using their imagery to advertise our site, and we hadn't asked for a license. So, that was it. Done deal, dusted. You're in the ground. Forget it. You're capuzzo. So the dark side of the force came down with a vengeance upon us. Lee Van Keith has that cease and desist letter framed because to him that's like, my God, his God, Lord George Lucas, actually wrote to us and said, "Fucking stop what you're doing." But he loves it. So it's on his living room wall. It's a shrine. So yeah, we stopped. But so I understand parts of this copyright law and doctrine. So it's weird, but sadly you've got to apply to it. And I'm going to put the links below to get this. Steve has his own website. He's on Instagram. There's other artwork as well, and obviously you can get that book from him, and you can get it from With Nail books. So I'm going to put the links below, and if you're lucky enough, you'll still get one of these, which is, I'm trying to show it without too much going on there. Look at that. That's a nasty fin. And there's Quint there. The big fat PBY is up here somewhere coming in, and it's a glorious picture. I don't know if you can see there's a guy totally screaming his head off there. A hellish predicament. In the book, he does. I think I may have mentioned it before. I've talked about it in other videos, but certainly I may have mentioned it even in this video. Quint maintains that the sharks took a lot more people than is genuinely what they believe to be the case. Some just drifted off completely. They formed a long, over many miles. In fact, it got stretched out over many miles. and sharks took many. But as time went on, people would succumb to drowning, hypothermia, slow drowning, secondary drowning, and the horrific burns from aviation fuel which swept through the Indianapolis as it was sinking. And people also went mad. They went delirious. They had hallucinations, and some of them were armed with knives and stuff. So many murders took place. They believe maybe there was Japanese infiltrators amongst the survivors. Yeah, it's ridiculous, but that's what they were thinking. And you've got some food there. You've got some actual fresh water. You stole my supplies. Knife. There's a thing about human blood in water, and that sharks can smell one sort of microbe of blood from 100 miles away. Yeah, I've got the facts and figures wrong, but it's a hell of a distance away. Now, in another video, I'm going to talk about this a bit more because, well, there's something on British terrestrial TV at the moment. I've seen all of it, but it's actually on episode by episode, but we binged it, and it's celebrities diving with sharks. They're all UK celebrities, so a lot of you people around the world, well, I've not heard of them, but I thought, what a stupid idea. It's like The Running Man, Stephen King. It's like, what's it called? Climb for money. In The Running Man, the Arnie version, climb for cash, and they've got like tigers and bears and oh my, ripping them, and they fall off the ladder and they get devoured. It's all like sort of the Colosseum arena games to keep the masses satisfied. But so we're in the era of reality TV shows, so it's called like Sharks, Celebrity Infested Waters, and we watched the whole thing, and it's not bad actually, and it's about shark ecology and shark sort of looking after sharks, shark preservation. It's getting people to know and love and adore sharks and admire them for what they are. And the very fact that you've got an Australian Navy diver, Special Forces diver, who lost half an arm and half a leg to a bull shark attack in Sydney Harbour. and he's one of the guys who's training the people to do it, all these celebs. And he's great. He's a big advocate of sharks. And it's been wonderful to watch. And I forgot the point when I got onto this. What was I talking about? Why did I come onto that? I always do this, don't I? Maybe I'll confer with my favourite Barnacle Bill. No, definitely forgotten. But they show sharks in sort of the reality of what sharks are like, and how beautiful and agile, graceful, and just ethereal they are, and how you can look at them in the eye, apart from a hammerhead obviously, and you see hammerheads and they build up to a tiger shark. But it's a great show. It's a great show, and I wish to God I could think of the point I was trying to make. Oh, I'm going to kick myself afterwards about this, but it is what it is. So it's all part of the whole shark renaissance right now. We have Shark Week, don't we, every year, and that's TV shite, that's what I'm saying. You've got all your Sharknado movies. You've got Dangerous Animals at the moment, which has just come out, and I'm going to review that. It's serial killer with sharks. It's probably the most original shark movie that you can have since Jaws. Because every other bloody shark movie is just, well, you're in the water and sharks in the water are a shark. Bait is always great. The Reef, Shallows. They're just slants. They're just variations on the same theme. Bait actually has a tsunami hitting an Australian town, and the sharks come in to a big shopping mall because it's totally flooded out. So they're on top of the aisles and the shelves and all that, and there's fins going down the aisles, all the groceries. It's actually really good, and the flooded car park underneath. It's great. But you've got this one, Dangerous Animals, which I think is by far the most original idea. I'm not going to say too much because you haven't seen it, but I know what it's about, and I think it sounds pretty nasty, pretty gruesome. But imagine Michael Myers not using a knife, using sharks. That's what you got. So anyway, folks, Jaws, the USS Indianapolis, and if you can, it's good. This is going to run out. This, as I say, I'm on 102, copy of 300. I'm sure he can produce more. It's what they call a chapbook, so it's it's not mass produced, is it? But they could print off a few more. They're stapled in the middle, and it's a lovely, it's well written, and it's a lovely chronicle of what Quint is alluding to. His fictitious speech is based enormously on truth. He gets the dates wrong, he gets numbers wrong, he gets a few other bits and bobs wrong, but that's not the point. In the movie, it works absolutely splendidly, sepulchrally, and spellbindingly. And the reality is actually far, far worse. And it wasn't just the Indianapolis, it's happened a lot, It talks also about the US Air Force, the Navy, and the Royal Navy and RAF trying to find shark repellents, which didn't really work. I know what I was going to say. I've suddenly remembered. Sharks can detect one microbe of blood a million miles away. They can detect it. They could be on Mars and they'll detect it, and come swimming through space to get it. They can, and they do. There is a school of thought now, and it's propounded by that guy I just mentioned who lost an arm and a leg in Sydney Harbour to a bull shark attack, and now a big advocate of sharks. He spent 48 hours in the briny, and he poured human blood around himself. Where did he get that from? What was he doing on the side? This aquatic vampire. He poured human blood around him, and sharks came in and sniffed it and went away. That's what he says. But if you put fish blood in the water, they're going to come in and they're going to eat you as well. Well, the reality of this is sharks are still attracted to human blood. They are, and they will come. These sinkings, the Annapolis itself, totally proves that. People went into the water totally bleeding, dying, cut to bits. Ship's gone down very quickly. They've all had injuries going over. Some are burning. The sharks. Okay, you've got frenzied activity, but they realised that the oil slick itself acted as a kind of deterrent. Sharks didn't want to really go near that. Understandable, of course. But all the shark repellents that they were creating were really crap. Nothing's ever really worked. There's no real shark repellent that's, even to this day, that genuinely works. You've just got to face them down. You've got to be calm. You've got to just be calm, cool, and collected. Imagine that, like, once you're underwater, or you're bobbing up and down on the set, and this thing comes towards you, and it's not even 20-footer, 25, 3 tons of him. It might even be that big. What's it matter? It's a fucking shark. I've been in the water with lemon sharks, and they're only small little things, little sand sharks and reef sharks, and they're not that bad. They've still got these fucking teeth, and they've still got the pointy thing, and I've still got vulnerable flesh. I'm not encased in armour here, Not pleasant, but at the same time quite beautiful. But not the point. The sharks are attracted to, whenever a human goes in the water, starts swimming, it mimics, a panicked fish, a dying fish on the surface. Sharks are drawn in. That's also not entirely true. Sharks are very investigatory, and they, what the hell are you? And some sharks, you know, I'll nudge you and I'll take a little. I don't know what the hell you are. You're not really on my menu. You're not what I normally eat, but you know, you do look appetizing. But human beings are a lot bigger than their usual prey. So, a shark's gonna think, you know, no one can threaten me. I'm the apex predator, for fuck's sake. You know, but you know, you are almost half my size. So, I don't know. I'm just gonna go a little tentative. Not too sure. Don't know. Off they go. But humans, well, sharks gonna be massively interested then, and you start hitting it. Oh, the big advice: punch it on the snout, on the nose. Nah, a good idea. Not a good idea. In the last ditch attempt, that's all you can do. But what they say is to push them away. Eyeball them because they're looking at you. So eyeball them, you know, and like stare back at them, but keep yourself calm. And they come at you, just move aside and nudge them, nudge their body away. You can turn them. Says me, who's sitting here on a chair in his kitchen in Kilt Mansion. There ain't no well, actually there is. That bloody shark took a tumble, didn't it? I don't know. But anyway, there's the shark lesson for tonight. But Jaws the 50th thunders on! And it's great, isn't it? It's back out in cinemas again in the UK in, oh God, only a matter of a week's time. Also in 3D. I don't know if any of you have seen it in 3D. I haven't seen it in 3D. I don't think it needs to be in 3D. I'm really not, you know, smitten with the idea of that. But I might go and see it. It's always worth seeing at the flicks, though. It is a cinematic movie. It's one of the greatest cinematic movies that there genuinely is. It spawned the blockbuster, but editing, Werner Fields, music, John Williams, the acting, the dialogue, the practical effects, everything. Okay, the shark doesn't work. Oh, the shark is broken. The fucking shark, as far as I'm concerned, the shark bloody works. What you got on camera looks amazing. It's perfect. It's absolutely perfect. I don't care what anyone says. Jaws is the absolute, the epitome of, you know, action adventure, character driven monster movies. Nothing comes close to it. Nothing really. So, but everything works as a cinematic treat. I said before, the speech, the Indianapolis speech, done wrongly, done ham-fistedly, would have stopped the film dead in its tracks. But it would become a dead moment, or several moments, which would slow the pace. After all the tug on the line and the man against beast, the barrel chase and all that, it would have stopped the movie. After all the build up, Chrissy Watkins, Alex Kintner, the pier incident, you know, all of this stuff would have just, you've diffused the whole thing. But it doesn't do that. It actually enhances it by being quieter, haunting, elegiac, and so, I don't know, pessimistic. Anyway, we delivered the bomb, you know. But it's still like, I never put a life jacket in again. I kind of mangled that line there, didn't I? But you know what I'm talking about. But it doesn't sink or slow the movie down at all. It adds a whole new level to the movie, which puts you like, oh shit. I was afraid before, now I'm fucking terrified. Many more videos on Jaws to come. Many more. And I've got a few really interesting ones for you. But in the meantime, let's show you this again. Quint, Jaws and the USS Indianapolis by Steve White. Steve Great White. Or I think he calls himself on Twitter and, or no, it's X. And there's other stuff, Instagram, as at SharkBiteSteve. SharkBiteSteve. Steve, you really should have called yourself Steve Great White. But as you said, you know yourself, they're just the white shark. But you're great, mate. That's brilliant. Massively recommend it. Artwork is superlative. Brilliant. that dorsal fin is truly the stuff of nightmares. It really is. So, folks, I have been always shall be Kilt-Man. Please, in the meantime, it's ever like farewell and adieu to you fair Spanish ladies in between time. Please keep it Celtic, and I'm going to see you all later. And believe me, those beaches will be open.